If you're interested in starting a business, this is the video for you. As a business attorney, this is what I do all day, every day. Coming up on 10 years, I have helped to build and launch 6 and 7 figure businesses. And it's really important that there's just so many things that we do and we do it in a certain way to just ensure that you are set up for success, because as you continue to grow, problems will just happen and we're ready for it because we're going to set you up for success. So if you're excited, make sure you hit that like, give me a comment, and let's go. Number one, when it comes to what do we do when we're starting a business, of course, we're going to talk about an entity that you need to form. Very important. A lot of people think, okay, maybe I should start a corporation. We've heard about limited liability companies, also known as LLCs. And where I just am always going to say to start is with a limited liability company, okay? Just register one where you're located. You can do a little bit of, looking around at different states. And I say that just because, for some people, if you're in California, for example, if you set up an LLC, you do have to pay annual fees just to exist. Okay. And so if you're paying $800 a year to the state just to actually have the LLC, I don't know, that could be a little bit of a detriment because maybe you're not making that much money just yet. So there are appropriate times where setting up an LLC in a different state. For example, in Arizona, it's nice and easy breezy. There's no annual fee. You just get to live in perpetuity once you set up. So something to keep in mind, but the point just being, let's start with something. And my general recommendation is to just start with an LLC because, most of the time we're not starting and we have hundreds of thousands of dollars of gross income coming in. And the time where you typically want to consider maybe switch into a corporation such as an S corporation is when you have, let's say, maybe 200,000, 250,000 gross coming in. Until you hit that point from a tax perspective, and talk to your accountant. I'm not an accountant, but until you hit that point, typically just have an LLC because it makes more sense. It's easy. You have what's called a pass-through. So when you do your taxes on your Schedule C, you'll just make a little note, your additional income came in from name of LLC. And it's really that simple. So I definitely recommend start with an LLC, but if it needs to be a corporation, do that as well. And what that does is it's going to give you a liability shield so that people can't come after you personally if a problem happens related to the business, related to contracts that you signed with the LLC. So this is the first step as far as keeping you protected legally. The second piece of this, and I'll include this as just an example. So one of the clients that we, were kind of chatting with was integrating an app as far as the vision for the company, the development of what they wanted to do, not required for what you're doing, maybe not applicable to what you're doing, but it brings up a good point, which is when you hire people to make stuff for your company, whether it's an application, whether it's some graphic design, they're building a website for you, they're taking pictures of your team. Anytime someone is doing something for the company under copyright law is like, hey, we want to protect creators. And so what the drafters of the Copyright Act did is they go, okay, when you make something, as soon as it is in a tangible medium, such as a website or it's a picture or it's a song, as soon as it's in that format, you get automatic copyright protection. Now, the reason why you need to know this as a business owner is because when you hire the person to make the thing, even though you have an agreement with that person that they're making it for you, under copyright law, they own it. So what we do then to, address that is just to have a contract. And it says, hey, you're a contractor. Whatever you make is going to be assigned to me. We have this agreement. I'm going to pay you this money. And you have to have the written agreement. It's required. If you don't, I don't care how much you've paid the contractor. Under the law, they still own the thing. And I've actually litigated over this. Someone paid someone else $100,000 over the course of so many years. Dispute broke out. And then the other person's like, I own it. And under the law, they were right. So what we're going to do is that we're going to not only set up the entity, but we also need to make sure we have contracts with the team that we hire to help. Now, it's not just contractors, but at some point you want to hire an employee, right? So you go, I'm going to get Jane because Jane's going to come in. She's going to handle all of my operations, right? And my emails and talking to people and managing team. And that's great. So at which point you actually hire an employee, you want to have an employment agreement. Okay. So just the piece being, we need to make sure we have contracts for everything that you're doing. And so as a business owner, you do need to kind of think through, you're building templates for what you do as a company. And so these are usually one-time investments, right? To build a contractor agreement, and then you change out names and you change out numbers. But otherwise, you need to have that in your arsenal so that you are staying legally protected. Now, the other piece of this that comes up is your intellectual property. Your intellectual property is often, we talk about trademarks, we talk about copyrights, and we talk about patents. All right, so patents is, the process in which something works. And so if you go, I have these proprietary glasses right here and they're so super cool because, maybe like the wings could detach or, extend and do something funky and I need to protect the patent in which it works. That's patent law. If you want to trademark something, you are identifying the source of goods or services, right? So it's I am top music attorney. I go by Miss Crystal as an artist. My law firm is Delgado Entertainment Law. These are all names that identify what I do, right, as a business, as providing services or goods. So we want to trademark your name, right, your business name, and do it at the federal level. Okay. So it's really important. We can trademark at the state level, but we want to make sure that you are protected everywhere in the United States if you were here in the United States. If you're in a different country, same thing. If you're in the UK, get your protection in the UK. And you might be doing business in the US as well at some point, get it in the US as well. So then setting aside, we went through patents, we went through trademarks. Now let's talk about copyright. Copyright is protecting the creative things that we talked about, right? So in the example of, you have creative things of websites, copyright, pictures, right? The actual, copyright in the image itself. You have songs, you have movies. And so anything that's being created, you want to make sure you retain the copyright. So when we use, big fancy words like intellectual property, we're talking about usually these three categories, and we're talking about what can become the most valuable aspect of your business. Because later on, when you build something that's really cool and people are excited about it, you might want to sell it. And so if you're going to sell it, one of the first questions is, well, your amazing business, Bob's awesome glasses that you built. You want to sell the proprietary information in it, but a part of it's the intellectual property, it's the name, right? That's the value. So it's really important that you do get those rights registered, and some of it you can do yourself. Stuff like patents and trademarks, please get some help. It takes so long to get one of your applications even reviewed. If you did it wrong, you're going to lose time, you're going to lose so much money. So it's really worth hiring someone to get some help on that. Copyrights are a little bit easier, which is great news. But either way, just make sure you are protecting your IP. Besides the contracts and the intellectual property, and making sure you're clear on your agreements with your team and vendors and whoever you're working with. The next thing that I really like to think about is, okay, so what are we doing to kind of build your brand awareness? Because it's all cool. Once we have this thing that's working, you have great services, you have great things that you're selling, who's going to buy? So this is where kind of, having a little bit of knowledge in, brand building and having a plan of what we're going to do to actually get you, let's say, to six figures annually or six figures monthly is really important. Okay. But the baseline of everything I just talked about, including having your own entity, is just you got to get it done. Get all those things, and then they're kind of out of the way. But you've done a huge service for yourself and your business to protect what you're trying to build because you want it to be successful, right? So when it is successful, you are now in a best position to deal with problems. But then now we get to work on some of the fun stuff, which is how do we get the word out about what you're selling and what you're doing? And that means we go to social media, we get your website, we get your social media handles and make sure that they're all the same. And then we get some kind of content schedule together so that you are posting regularly, you are doing stuff that's educational or entertaining, right? Or just whatever is kind of on brand for what you do, what your company does. And this is definitely how we can, create a business that's self-sustaining. Because, if you have good products, if you have good services, people become happy customers and they tell other people about that. And even for my law firm, that's kind of how we started, like the first couple of years. And in fact, we really have never done any kind of advertising. We just, word of mouth is really important. Have really great services and, your business will become self-sustaining from that. But get on social media, be promoting. So when it comes to kind of the steps of what you need to do to build your business and have something that can become, your retirement plan, if you are working for someone else right now and you are looking to kind of make a shift, is to go through these steps. Set up an entity for yourself, such as a limited liability company, get your contracts into place, right? And just have some templates for the types of things you want to do. For example, having a contractor agreement is really important. Having a licensing agreement, if you're working with vendors, really important, but get those things reviewed by an actual business attorney. And then you want to move into protecting your intellectual property. And maybe you don't have it right now, right? Maybe you're just kind of thinking about a name. And so, you might move and get into trademarking that name here pretty soon. But as soon as you have stuff that you're making, your patents, your trademarks, and your copyrights, get them protected. And so once you have kind of all of that together, now you get to work on the fun stuff. You're building the business, you're promoting on social media, and it's a lot of work. But I know you can do it and you're going to do a great job. And I think that if you're excited about it, like that's all you need to know. Life is really short, and I think you need to make moves and not hesitate. And even for me as a business owners, I have built a lot of businesses, not just for my clients, but also for myself. And I know that hesitation is one of the biggest problems we have to overcome. I'm here telling you it's time to make the move. If you need some help, reach out to Delgado Entertainment Law. We got you covered.